Are we all back again? Are we on here? Cool. All right.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we can continue with the gaps management on your planning. If when we updated the actual start, finish, etc., we identify that according to the plan, we are not exactly aligned because we maybe are late on some task or tasks take more longer duration. We have to manage these cases and see how to update the planning according to these changes. So to do this, first we have okay. First, identify what is not correct in my plan. Identify, in fact, the tasks which are late. So we have the status indicator, which is available as a very simple way to identify those tasks. You can also identify things according to the green vertical bar in the diagram, as explained by Santa earlier. But with this column, it's useful information, very simple to see that okay, there are some problems. We can also have some problems because of constraints which has been set up, and we are not aligned with the dates for that. So we have this warning here, but in production we have a column with an X, which is displayed beside each delayed task, and a task with gaps compared to the constraint. So if it happens, now we have the possibility to replan. And it's not just a possibility, in fact. We have to replan task, because otherwise our planning will simply be wrong. If some task should start at this date and that it has still not started, and we keep the start date at the same place, it's not. We can be sure that all the dependencies, all the things that are planned after this task will be wrong, as they will not be planned correctly. So there are different ways to change and to reschedule things. Again, because this project we can work in different with different options. We propose to use a very simple way to manage this because it takes less time. For example, this task should have started in September, and we are now in December, and it still does not start it. So we have to change. So we can see things here in the status indicator that okay, it's a late task, and we added in the ribbon function, which is incomplete parts to status date. And if we click on this, the task will be scheduled to start after the status date. So status date is a special date. Not sure that we will use it, but if we have no status date, the date will be today. So the default status date, unless specifically defined, the default status date is today. So if you click on a button, so you select a task, you click on this button, and the task will start from now. And of course, if you have some links, the links will be, of course, we will reschedule automatically the successor of the task. and your plan will be then correct again. How is it done technically? Project put a constraint on the task and tell to the task that you cannot start earlier than this date. In that case, it's completely understable that we cannot start earlier, because earlier it's in the past, and so the past is past. So no problem of frozen planning, etc. Because this is today, and so we cannot start a task earlier than today, because today is today and the past is in the past. So in that case, the constraint is relevant, and it's easy to understand. So we will do it in our example here. So let's.
Just two quick questions there. If you could just go back to the first two slides, two very quick questions, hopefully. Just two before that.
This one, maybe.
Yeah, that one. That the red X, is that only in the online version that will appear, or will that also be a field in the Project Pro?
This one in the production is visible in Project Pro
as well. Okay.
Yes. And I would say mainly in Project Pro, because it's there where we need the information. We display the information also in the Project Center, but as a global field, telling in the Project Center that one task at least has this kind of alert inside. After, maybe I will display. Yes, I will show, because we have some time, and I think it's something interesting to observe.
Okay, and just one more question to the previous slide of that as well. The previous slide to that one there. You're calling your status indicator, where you have your delay icon there in your first column over on the left.
Yes.
Or if you go back a slide, it's on.
On this one.
Yeah, that's delay versus baseline, or delay versus what?
It's delay between the dates here. So the baseline are absolutely not taken into account to calculate these alerts.
So it's percentage complete versus today's date versus the date there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Because in this case, maybe you started, so it's not a problem. But normally, where should you be according to the percentage of achievement and the duration? And if your actual duration plus the start date is in the past or in the future, it will manage the status indicator according to that. If it finished before, so we have a later. If we have less, we have an achievement which is lower than expected. In fact, it's as simple as that.
Okay, no, that's brilliant. Thanks for that answer.
Okay, so I will open a project in the production to show you, because I think it's really something important to have in mind. I saw that we had a project with such an alert in production. So it's a test project in production. I don't know who created it, but it was a good idea, in fact. Test project. No, not a problem. So I will simulate on this project without saving. It will be very simple. So I will information. Advanced must finish on. Okay, so I put something here, and maybe this task, maybe this one will take more time. See, alert, and then okay, you see it is displayed here. The alert, and of course because we will display a red cross on all tasks who are late. So the primary cause is this one, but the summary task will be late as well. The highest level task as well, and the project summary as well. Okay, so with this you can see exactly the path of the inconsistency of the project and the duration. Okay, you can also notice that we have another alert here, which is called late task. In fact, for this one, it's something a little bit different because here we are checking if the task which is late is in the critical path or not. So we didn't talk about critical path, but maybe you understand a little bit what it means. Just expand a little bit the zoom level. See. Okay. So it's a good moment to talk about critical path. So the critical path is the list of tasks linked together where you have no margin. So it means that if the duration of this task increase of maybe 1 day, 2 days, the duration of the project will also increase. For example, this one, if the duration will be 32 instead of 30, you see that the global duration change as well. So a task which define in fact the duration of the global project is considered as a critical path, a critical task. In fact, so it is in the critical path. So a path, it's really the list of tasks where we have zero margin. You understand that this one, if we change the duration, it doesn't care, because in parallel we have a task which is longer. If I change this one, then it will have an impact. And if I maybe put 10 days, you see that now this task will be in the critical path and not this one. Okay, so project always calculate which tasks are critical, and when you have to monitor some task, you must prioritize the critical path for the critical tasks. In fact, that's why here we created this information here. It's for my example, I see that it's the same, but yeah, in fact, normally, in fact, here you display the same as here. You are in alert if the status indicator says I'm in alert, but also if the alert the additional condition is that it must be in the critical path. For example, if this task will be in late as well, it will not be displayed as a late task, because you don't have to focus on such type of task. If you are late here, it's not a problem. At a certain moment, maybe the task will start to be critical, because maybe if this task will start too late, then it will be set as as a critical path, as a task is a critical path, because imagine that this one, instead of starting here, it will start here, then it will be again the critical task, and then if it is late compared to the current day, it will be considered as a late task. And the late information is always, the status indicator is always relative to the status date. So the status date, normally it's more or less today, but in some situation, maybe you want to tell that your project is up to date by maybe end of last week. You made all your reports and etc. Based on the dates defined in the status date. So sometimes we define status date at maybe the end of December, and everything is compared to this situation. Today has no meaning because what happens during this week, for the moment, it's not updated in the planning. So don't generate some alerts based on evolution on the Monday, Friday, Friday, etc. Because for the moment, the information are not in the project. So that's why we say to project, okay, calculate everything by end of last week, or by end of maybe the previous one. And here I will check just. It should start. For example, if I say that the last status date was this one, I guess that you see, by default, it's calculated based on today. But if I define a status date here, it's calculated based on the status date. And here we have a task that should start at the middle of November, but it's after the status date. So we cannot say that this task is late, because for the moment, what happened between status date and here the start of the task, we don't know. Then project does not calculate the indicators for that. Okay, is it something clear or complex?
Just as a practical example of that, maybe to put it in context, is previous projects that I've worked on where, there's a lot of subcontractors and we need their, commercially we needed their report in by, let's say, the 30th of each month. And then it would take me a week to collate that information into the master project. So I would set the status date as the 30th because that was when everybody reported their progress until, but I only released the main schedule a week later. So I couldn't say it was the status date as of a week later. I had to say this was the progress up to the 30th. So that's that slight gap and difference that sometimes appears.
Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure that currently you have to use this functionality. I show you. If it seems to be relevant for you, you can use it. It's integrated in project, and it can be nice to have. But if not, it's not a problem. Really, first we have to do a lot of management with projects, or a lot of things to do currently without this kind of subtle things. But it's always good to know that, okay, if you are in that case, this possibility exists to manage a status date. And here I can highlight the difference between a late task. Status indicator says it's late. So it's late. Why? Because I set a status date at this date. So it has no sense because I cannot make a status date for the future. But let's imagine that we are now next year and that it's possible. And here you see that this task is considered as late because it should start before the status date. So we are late according to that. But this task is not in the critical path. It's in blue. It's not a critical task. That's why this indicator here is not displayed as in alert. The alert is only concentrated, only focused on the critical task and not on the non-critical one. Okay. So it was a quick step on the side to see maybe a bit further than what we saw in the training, but I think it could be interesting to know that we can do that. So I won't change this project, and let's return to our what we wanted to do. So
sorry, Sylvain, me again. Just a small thing to the team with regarding status state. In the spirit of evolution of these tools and its use with other teams, we may start to consider using status state around the reporting of budget, of cash flow, and trying to align that with the reporting dates that INBU and corporate finance use. We're not there yet on whether we need to do that, but that may be an evolution as we go, that we may have to start considering that status state.
Okay, so let's reload my project again. Oh, it's not the correct one. Don't remember the name of my previous project. Okay. Okay, so we are back to this project.